Good morning and welcome. This is all about goals today. Let's talk about goals. And I hope wherever you are, you're having a jolly good time. So let's see if we can make it even better by helping you set up 2020 as we wander through Christmas and have a good time. So let's get underway. And of course, at any time, please submit a question and I will do my best to answer for you as we go, or alternatively, leave it till a little bit later, especially, of course, if it's a question which I can answer as we go through the presentation. So let's make this good for the recording. Welcome. I am Clive, Enever Business Strategist from Clive, Enever Business Strategist. And today we want to talk about goals, setting up your 2020 year and see if we can help you move through it in such a way that you're going to make it very easy for yourself as we go into a really good year. And welcome, Linda. Linda's just popped in.
So, hi.
We had a vision of you for a moment, looking almost as studious as I.
It's on the side. So I'm only here to help with chat and also make it go live. So.
Very good.
Beautiful.
Okay, well, we've just got through our introduction. So let me see if I can share my screen and find my presentation so that we can lead you through a nice little story, make it easy for you to achieve your goals.
I'm going to mute myself and go off screen.
Okay. So here we go. Let's see if we can turn this into a proper slideshow. There we go. So as we said, today's all about identifying and achieving your goals. And goals, of course, are something that lots of people have difficulty with. I remember when I first heard about goals, other than in football, of course, I found it really difficult to understand what the people were actually talking about. And so therefore today I'll try and make it as simple as I possibly can. So if I get too simple, bear with me, but understanding goals is really, really important, because once you understand how to achieve a goal, how to set a goal, it becomes really comfortable in your daily life, and it makes your daily life, well, fun. As I was saying to somebody the other day who said that they like to have a lot of fun, I said, I like to have a lot of fun too, but for me, having fun is a very serious business. And I like to make sure that the things that I'm doing are going to deliver that fun, and I make sure that I enjoy it as I work my way through it. And in doing so, I find it much easier to achieve the goals that I set myself. So we look at goals. What are they? Achievable goals. Are they dreams? Are they wishes? Well, in my world, they're all of that, but they're considerably more than just dreams and just wishes. And I asked that question on the slide at the moment. If you could see the future, would you still need to set goals? Well, there's an exciting thing about that, because if you can see the future, you've already set your goals. And it makes it really easy to achieve them once you can see them. It also means that very often your goals become reality far more quickly if you can see them, or once you see them, I should say.
Just a quick note.
Yep.
You're showing the next slide. Do you want to go full screen presentation? You're showing the presenter's notes, that's all.
Okay.
Do Do you want me to come in?
No, I'll fix that. I think.
High presenter view. There you go.
Obviously pulling it from the wrong area.
That's okay. I just thought I'd let you know that you were showing your presenter notes. And Enever, thank you for the heads up and letting us know that that was there. Bye.
So, what are goals? In simple terms, a goal is something that you want. And if we like to look at the dictionary, the dictionary tells us that a goal is an all-encompassing want. And when you set goals, it's probably important, or it's helpful certainly, that you set objectives to go with them. So what are objectives? Objectives are the measurable steps taken to achieve the goal. And that means, of course, that you're measuring things as you're moving forward, because the wonderful thing about goals is we can't control the outcome of whatever it is that we undertake to achieve. All we can control is the activity. So if we understand what the activity is, we can monitor that and count it, because if we can count it, we can manage it. And that makes it easier again to achieve your goals. So again, we go to the dictionary. What's an objective? It's a list of measurable activities to undertake to achieve a goal. So you've probably heard about SMART goals, and SMART is an acronym for specific, measurable, attainable, relevant, and time-based. And I think they speak for themselves, those words. We won't spend too much time on it, but if anyone has a question, by all means, please submit it and I'll do my best to answer it. But in setting a goal, you don't want to have just a wish for something nice. It must be specific. The measurable part of it is what I was just talking about with the activity. You can measure activity, and the results that you attain throughout whatever activity you undertake indicate whether or not the activity is right to achieve whatever it was you wanted to achieve. Because if you've missed your goal, maybe the activity needed to be addressed. They need to be attainable. Now, this is the one that trips up lots of people. It's all very well to set a goal to go to the moon, but if all we've got to help us get there is an old motorbike that doesn't run very well, perhaps the goal is not attainable. Provided we've got the right gear and we can see that the goal can be achieved, then by all means go out and get it, because that would be an attainable goal. It needs to be relevant. Okay, relevant to what? Ideally, it's relevant to you, your life, and everything that's going on within it. And of course, that also means that there are probably other people involved in your life, so it needs to be relevant to those people as well. Time-based simply means that if you don't put a time on it, it loses a sense of urgency. And in losing that sense of urgency, it becomes a wish or a dream. It just wanders around out there that it's something that you might be interested in, perhaps, maybe sometime. So putting times onto your goals and objectives encourages you to do the things that are necessary to achieve them. And once you've done that, they become very much more achievable in much more quicker time. Another way to look at goals is as simple as ABC. It must be achievable, it must be believable, and it must be conceivable. Now, that's just a slightly different view from what we were looking at a moment ago. Achievable, attainable, pretty much the same thing. Believable. Now, if you don't believe that you can achieve a goal, you're wasting your time, because you're setting a goal that is not going to happen. You're not going to achieve it unless you can believe that you're capable of doing it. And conceivable means, can I see it in my head? Now, provided you can see it, you'll go out and you'll get it. So, setting goals. Why? Why do we set goals? Having goals sets direction, it defines focus, and it maintains motivation. Because if you set a goal, it should be something that is so all-inspiring, if you like, that you just go out and get it. And you keep going and you keep going and you keep going. We'll probably all know people who seem to work longer hours than anybody else, and they keep coming up trumps. Now, these people are probably people who set goals and just go out and do the necessary activity in order to achieve the things that they're after. And of course, once they achieve something, it becomes easier to achieve something else. That's an interesting thing about goals. And why, if you set a huge goal, it's really important to break it down into those manageable pieces. Set those objectives so that you can tick them off as you go past. You got this one, you got that one. Let's move on to the next one. And each one takes you that step closer to achieving the ultimate goal that you set yourself. So how do you achieve these goals? First, you sit down and work out what it is that you want. You set that goal. Now plan out the activity that is necessary to undertake in order to achieve the goal. So work that plan. Now, when you make a plan, it's really important that that plan is extraordinarily detailed, so that when you go to work the plan, you don't run into obstacles because of the plan or because of something that's not in the plan. What we want in making that plan is a really clear path that highlights all of the things that you need to do in order to achieve your objectives and goals. And it also eliminates the things that you don't need to do so that you don't actually do them. So as you work that plan, there's every chance that it's going to get tough. And I like to think that as things get tough, it's not because we're not supposed to have them. It's just to figure out that we're actually serious, that we do actually want it. Lots and lots of people give up just before they would have achieved whatever it is that they're after. If you're serious, you keep going and you keep going and you keep going until you achieve what it is that you're after. Very often you'll find as you go through this process that you might have thought something might take X period of time, and you might do it in X times 80% or X times 50%. Very often you're able to achieve things far more readily than at first we think. Now, what about sharing your goals? Sharing your goals is very, very important, provided you do it with appropriate people. We've all got people around us who are naysayers, and if we tell them that we're going to do a certain thing, they'll quite happily tell us that it's totally impossible, you can't do that, you won't achieve this, etc., etc. Those people are the people you don't want to be sharing your goals with. What you want around you is people who will support you in achieving your goals. And that comes back to that relevance that we talked about in the SMART. If the goal is relevant to somebody, it's worthwhile sharing with them because they'll support you and help you achieve it. But if the goal is not relevant to somebody, it's probably a good idea to keep it to yourself. We don't need extra people trying to drag us back. There's enough of those folks around us without encouraging them. So goals set in achievable timeframes. One way of doing this, of course, is looking at it on a quarterly basis. Let's face it, a year is quite often a long time to look forward. It doesn't seem very long when you look back. Here we are in December. Where was last December? Wasn't that last week? And we look forward to next December. It can appear a long way off. So perhaps if we set our goals for the quarter, we might be able to achieve them more readily. But in setting that goal, whatever period of time you select, you need to be really clear on the commitment and effort that you'll make to achieve that goal. It's also a very good idea, I think, to write these things down, to remind yourself of what it is that you're undertaking. At the end of the day, this is a big achievement. It's a big objective, whatever your goal is. It's a big thing to undertake, to set that commitment, to undertake the effort, deliver the activity to achieve that goal. It's also worthwhile having a look at, what do I need to improve in order to achieve this goal? And again, write it down to remind yourself. Write down also how you will monitor how that improvement is travelling. How can you manage it? And then commit yourself entirely to that goal. And again, write it down. Writing it down seems to make a huge difference in how we perceive whatever it is that we undertake to do. Whether that's because we find it easy to forget that we said something, I don't know. But writing things down makes it much easier to commit to them and then to actually remember to go out and achieve them. So, achievable timeframes. We're still talking time. Perhaps those quarterly goals need to be broken down into weekly goals and figure out what it is that you need to do per week to achieve whatever it is you've set yourself across that quarter. Now, if a quarter has 14 weeks, do we divide the total thing required by 14? Well, I've seen people do that, and if they have a bad week along the way, they put pressure on themselves because they're behind. What I've seen other folks do, and do very well, is to set themselves higher goals in the early weeks, so that if they do miss out on 1 week, they're not putting themselves on pressure because they've got under pressure because they need now to catch up. But what they're doing is they're still in front, and therefore they're in a much more relaxed position. And stress is not a good thing to carry into trying to achieve. So the things that you might look at there is the activity. Again, you can't control the outcome, you can control the activity. And if we look at a simple thing like sales, if you want to achieve a certain outcome in sales, calculate how many people you need to have contact with in order to identify a potential client, a prospect. And how many prospects do you need to speak to in order to turn those into clients or sales? When you understand what that's about, that identifies the activity you need to undertake, and it's all about the activity. So identifying that it is achievable is a huge part in achieving your goal. Because if you can identify that it is achievable, theoretically, you've already achieved it. It's then just a matter of controlling the activity. If you make sure you show up, chances are you're going to achieve your goal. Obviously, the better you do at the activity, the better the greater the likelihood of the outcome that you want. But each day as you undertake the activity, learn by reflecting. At the end of each day, I think it's ideal to sit down and recognize what you did well. And again, this is important to write this down, but recognize what you did well, recognize what you're grateful for. A huge part of achieving goals is not looking to something that you don't have, but being grateful for something that you do have. It tends to quicken the process. The more grateful you are for those things that you have, it speeds up the likelihood of you achieving more of them. So in looking at each day, learn what it is that you did well, recognize what you might have done better. Don't dwell on it too much, because we want to focus on the things that we're doing well rather than the things that we're not doing well. But see yourself doing better in something that you didn't do as well as you might, and then move on so that the next time you can actually do it the better way. Ideally, write these things down. Again, having them written down means that you can go back to it at any time and see what it was that you were doing well at that particular time. You might find yourself undertaking activity theoretically the same today as you did yesterday, but it's not working. You go back and have a look at what you did yesterday and you find that perhaps there is a little change in your behaviour today. Perhaps you're not as enthusiastic. Perhaps you're talking to the wrong people, and so on and so forth. But if you've got it written down, it makes it really easy for you to go back and check, am I doing the things that I should be doing? A simple method that I follow is plan, act, evaluate. Make your plan as detailed and appropriate as you possibly can. Undertake the activity. But having undertaken the activity, evaluate how the performance was. What did you achieve? What did you not achieve that you wished you had, that you wanted to, that you thought you should? What needs to change? That might mean that there's something in the plan that needs to be addressed. And in addressing that, you'll find that the next time you undertake that activity, you'll get a different result. Because it's the old story of, if we continue doing what we've always done, we'll always get what we've always got. And then we've got to ask ourselves, will we be happy with that? Now, if always doing what you've always done always delivers precisely what you want, you probably are happy. But if it's not delivering what you want, something needs to change. So the important thing, choose a goal that you want to achieve. Know what keeps you going. Now, lots of people talk about motivation, staying motivated. I prefer to think of inspiration rather than motivation, because I believe that if you're inspired to do something, then you have all the motivation you'll ever want, because that inspiration is not a momentary thing that popped into your mind and thought, woohoo, this is a good idea. If you're inspired to go and do something, that inspiration should stay with you for as long as it takes to achieve whatever it is that you're after. Then undertake the activity. And there's your goal. Done. So, very quickly before we move into question and answer, there's an opportunity for you to learn more about goals and indeed everything else to do with business in the strategy circle, which is part of our Enever group, thinkific.com. And the strategy circle gets you access to my course series, which is being released throughout 2020, covering all things business. There's also a dedicated business group, which will have a monthly group strategy call with me where you can ask me all things business and anything business. And you can find that at that address there, which I'll also pop into the chat section of this webinar. Enever group, thinkific.com/bundle/the strategy circle. So plenty of opportunity for you in that to undertake courses, particularly about goals, but also about everything to do with business. And whereabouts can you find me? All of those addresses out there on social media land, LinkedIn, Facebook groups, business. And of course, the courses are at enevergroup.thinkific.com. You can also find me on the email at clive@cliveenever.com.au, and the phone is 0435 888 853. And some people ask me, how come I've got so many eights in that number? Well, if you lie it down, it's an infinity symbol. I plan on being here forever. Doesn't everybody? So let's go to question and answer and see what we can find there. I'm going to have to scroll through here while I find them. Oh, and I see that Linda's sent you a note telling you that we've got a good breakdown on SMART goals in the Business Life Planner. So, and Crystal, what's the best way to write a plan? Okay, the best way to write a plan in my world is first identify what the outcome is that you want. And having identified that, then identify the activity that's necessary to undertake to achieve the goal. Now, every activity I like to write down. And then to complete the plan, write down everything that you can think of that's happening in the overall environment about whatever it is that you want to achieve. Now, we don't want it too complicated with too much detail, but we do want to understand what the obstacles are that you're likely to run across. Because if we can identify the obstacles before we begin, we can actually eliminate most of them. We also want to understand who you need around you in order to assist you to achieve your objectives. And we can identify who those people are, not by name, of course, but we can identify the attributes of those people and bring those people into our circle so that we can get the support, the help from those people. Because most of us don't have everything that we need. There are other people who can support us. So in writing that plan, as you write out your story, I suggest, having started with the end, the way you write your story is you identify the environment. What's there? Who's involved in doing what you do? Who's involved in providing similar things to you? And why would somebody take what you have rather than what somebody else has? Identify all of these things so that you know what objections you're likely to come up against and how you're going to overcome those objections should they arise. Identify all of the positives about what it is that you can do for somebody to help them achieve what they want so that you can achieve what you want. As a former motivational speaker used to say, you can have anything that you want in life, as long as you help enough people get what they want. So that plan, make it as clear as you possibly can, and make sure that the plan actually shows you in your mind that you can see your outcome. And when you can see your outcome, then it's a simple matter of undertaking the activity and your goal is then achieved. Let me know if that helps. And if there's any subsequent question, Crystal, please ask. Amelia, when writing down goals, should we use some sort of journal or put it in our diary? I think it's important to put it in what you use on a regular basis. Now, I recommend to people who don't use anything at this stage to get a journal and put it into a journal. Why a journal rather than a diary? Because diaries have dates on them. And if we're just starting out, we don't want to become disillusioned because the time is passing beyond where we thought we were going to do something. Very often, if we're new to setting goals, or I've noticed people new to setting goals, they'll set a goal that really isn't achievable, but it's something that they'd really like to do. And they might even put too short a time frame on it. And instead of recognizing that perhaps they needed a little bit extra time, or perhaps they needed a little bit more activity, whichever is the case, they become disillusioned simply because they haven't achieved it in the time they wrote down. So writing in a journal allows you to go, okay, this is what we're going to achieve, blah, blah, blah. By all means, you still put a date on it, of course, but you don't have all of those days or pages flipping by with dates on them if you go over time, showing you just how much you're over. So it depends on the individual, but if you're using a diary on a daily basis and you're comfortable with that, then use your diary. If you need help setting goals, that is, if you're new to it or you've tried before and it didn't work, and you might be frightened now to try, just find somebody, not somebody who's going to poo-poo your ideas, find somebody who can help you set a goal. Now, it doesn't have to be me. It can be your mate down the road. It could be your next door neighbour, who knows? But there's somebody that you know who can help you set a goal. And taking advice from people who care, as I say, don't find somebody who's going to poo-poo your idea because you end up not setting it. Because you haven't set it, you convince yourself that you don't need them, and so it goes in a spiral in the negative direction rather than the positive direction. So it's what you're comfortable writing in, essentially. You just grab hold of it, put it down, and go for it. But you must monitor it. Unless you're monitoring it, it can wander on this way and that, and you can end up very, very confused. Monitor it, learn how to analyze the information that you're being provided with. so that you make the right decisions more frequently to get you to where you want to be more quickly. Does that help at all, Amelia? Renee, what was that quote again? Oh, okay. Zig Ziglar was the speaker. He's not with us anymore, but what he was famous for saying was, you can have anything at all you want in life, provided you help enough people achieve what they want. Did you get that one? It'll be in the recording, which no doubt we'll send out to you after this, if you'd like to go back and check it again. But yeah, it comes back to whatever it is that you have. If you're in business, you're providing things to other people. Now, the short answer that most people provide, of course, you're in business to make money or something similar to that, and that's fine. But ideally, you want to be in business to provide other people with a product or service which will allow them to achieve what they want. And that essentially is what Zig Ziglar was referring to. You help other people get what they want, provided you help enough people get what they want, they're actually helping you achieve what you want. Backwards, I know, but there's lots of things in business that we are taught through the years about how to do things, which if we actually turn them into reverse, they work much better. So, lots and lots of things don't necessarily happen the way that the standard talk tells us they are. Have we got any other questions? I must be getting better at these presentations. I'm eliminating questions. I don't know that this is good. I like questions. I like to be able to address question-specific areas, if you like, rather than generic. So if you've got a question, just pop it in the chat section there. And no. So if we have no other questions, we can move along. Now, I will send you via the chat here the address where you can go and sign up for the strategy circle if you like. Enevergroup.thinkific strategy circle that will be running through next year. As I said earlier, there's the monthly strategy session where, similar to this, except you'll be able to chat rather than put it in type form. You can ask me anything at all as you work through the various courses. Those courses will cover everything from setting goals to writing business plans to how to sell things to how to make a call. All the simple things right through to the more complex. And there's lots and lots of things that people have difficulty with in business. And if we can make it easier for you to get the simple things done, very often the more complex things work themselves out. Amelia, I can come up with a goal, but the steps to achieve that goal is where I get stuck. That is, I want more income. What actions can I do to move towards that goal? Okay. Simple answer. Whatever activity delivers that income, we need to do more often. Now, of course, I can hear you saying at the screen, but Clive, I already did that. Which means that perhaps we need to address a better way of getting ourselves in front of the people who are appropriate or necessary to buy our product or service, so that we can have more of it, so that we do have that more income. Now, that might mean that we need to look at who do we think our ideal customer is. Now, if any of you have attended my workshops or webinars previously on ideal customer, you'll know I have a very different view of how to identify your ideal customer than most of what we're taught. You know, most people want to tell us that we need an avatar, and the avatar might tell us that this is a person of a certain colour or race or age, or lives in a particular suburb, earns a certain amount of money, etc. There's a deeper understanding of who your ideal customer is that makes it much easier to identify that person as a customer. It means that you get to speak to fewer people but have more customers as a result of the conversations that you have. It also means that you understand better what type of conversation to have with that particular person. So this is the longer answer to that question of, I want more income, what actions can I do to move towards that goal? If the activity that we're undertaking isn't quite right, it doesn't matter how often we undertake that activity, it's not necessarily going to change our ability to achieve the goal. If we look back and find out that the activity that we're undertaking is perhaps not the right activity, or it's directed towards the wrong people, the wrong potential customer, then we just need to change whatever it is we're doing. For example, in simple terms, if we have a view of who our ideal client is, and let's say it's not quite right, and we think that they want to hear a particular story, we can go out and market that all day, every day, for as long as we like, and we're not going to get the result that we want. If we understand clearly who our ideal client is, we therefore understand what they need to hear from us. We therefore understand what they need to achieve as a result of working with us. Therefore, we're able to articulate that in a way which appeals to those people, but doesn't appeal to people who are not our ideal client. That's the part of where we get to speak to fewer people, but notwithstanding we're speaking with fewer people, we have more clients. Does that make any sense, Amelia? Let me know in the chat. Good. Now, if that presented a follow-up question from Amelia or from anybody else, please feel comfortable just to pop it in there, and I'll do my best to give you an answer. So, look, setting goals is frightening if we set them and then don't achieve them and allow ourselves to feel negative about it. On the other hand, setting goals that we understand that we can achieve and going out and achieving them is exciting. It fills one with a sense of achievement, a sense of pride. It allows us to move forward far more quickly, far more easily than otherwise we might. So if you're having difficulty setting goals or understanding how they work, try and think back to a time where there was something that you really, really wanted. It doesn't matter whether it was just to go down to the swimming pool or to go to the movies or whatever. When you decided that you wanted that, and you wanted that more than anything else, you undertook activity which was guaranteed to deliver that result. And so you achieved it. to get started now, if you're frightened of setting goals, fearful that you might not achieve them, make it simple. Maybe it's as simple as yesterday I dealt with 3 clients, and yet I know that I can deal with 6. So this week I'm going to undertake the necessary activity to find a 4th one, so that next week I'm dealing with 4 clients. And you just go out and do absolutely everything that's necessary to find that extra client. Does it mean sometimes you have to work hard? You bet it does. You know, I spent a lot of time as a salesperson. I'll tell you a little story about achieving sales. I was invited by a particular group to introduce a new product to the pharmaceutical industry. Now, that was all well and good, and we came to an arrangement, and I sat down to figure out what needed to be done to achieve the goals that I wanted to achieve. And it meant that I ended up with a particular volume of sales per day that I wanted to achieve. And I found that there were a few days where the forces of the world were against me, we'll say, and by 5 or 6 o'clock at night, I might not even have made a presentation, much less a sale. But across the 9 months that I was taking that role, there were only 3 days when I didn't achieve my goal. Now, that meant that all those days when at 5 or 6 o'clock I hadn't made a sale, by 10 o'clock at night, I'd made it. Sometimes you've got to go above and beyond. You've got to go that extra mile. The wonderful thing about going that extra mile, you're usually the only one on the road. And it means that the people with whom you want to do business recognise that you're just that little bit special. And when people think you're that little bit special, they actually want to help you. Not everybody out there is against whatever it is that we individually want to achieve. There are a lot of people who actually want whatever it is that you have, that you offer as a product or a service, and it's just a matter of finding those people. So, what's my best tip for achieving goals? Figure out what you really, really, really want. Write it down. Figure out how you can best achieve it. Write it down. And undertake a time, deliver a time that you want to achieve it by, and make sure it's realistic. Having got all of that, now go and undertake the activity. And when it is hard, and when people tell you you can't do it, just go and do it. Is it simple? Yes. Is it easy? No. If it was easy, everybody would do it. Just go out and have a go, and you might be surprised how the forces of the universe turn around and support you. Often when we have a go, more and more people recognise, hang on, how can we help? How can we get involved? And they're the ones that you want on your team. So have we got any more questions before we call an end to our little presentation on goals? No, all done? Go and have a look at the courses that are out there, enevergroup.thinkific.com, etc. You'll find them there. We've put a particularly good package together with that one. There'll be new courses coming into it as we move through the year, so that you have everything that you will need by the time we get to the end of next year. There'll be everything there you need to make every aspect of your business work. So thank you for being with us today, and we look forward to seeing you on our next presentation, which might be in one of those courses. So good luck with your goals. Good luck with achieving whatever it is that you're undertaking, and look forward to seeing you next time. Bye.